two of you are so good, I mean, that the relationship is so believable, how long did it take to kind of get that dynamic clicking?
Well, the only thing that I was self-conscious of is she's a lot younger than I am. Let's just be fair.
I was also self-conscious about that.
So I thought, like, geez, I hope she doesn't. And, you know, so I tried to look young. I think so sometimes it's better.
And I didn't have to try to look old. I just did.
Yes, you did have to.
That's what they do for women.
But once I got past that, I just kind of found that, like, our relationship, our friendship, the way that we kind of clicked and had a good time sort of takes over. You know, you don't think about the other stuff, I hope.
Yeah, and we got to be down in Missouri and just all of us sort of hanging out. And we were all on set a lot, all the time. So we got to spend a lot of time together. And it was just a great, hard-working group of people. We were all kind of
and
trying to
sometimes there's a bond where it's just like the two of us and we're doing this 40 times. Are we going to get fired or...
Right? Every day I thought I was...
Yeah, I wanted to ask about David because obviously he has that reputation of being such a perfectionist. I mean, what was it like when you are doing these takes over and over and
I'm
over?
a perfectionist too. I love working with a perfectionist. And the thing about David is, yes, he's a perfectionist, but he's very patient. If you're trying to get the thing that he wants, he'll work with you all day. And to me, that's what a wonderful endorsement and what a wonderful investment in an actor. I feel like I'm in such good hands when I'm working with
The
them.
people I don't want to work with are the people who are like, you do 2 takes and they're like, pretty good. You know,
Or their
people who are
decisions are
lazy.
completely arbitrary.
Yeah,
and
people who just didn't want to get through the day or wrap early. To me, I've learned that's the problem. The problem is not the guy that's paying too much attention to the movie. The problem is the guy's paying too little.
And, I mean, obviously you have the book as a resource, which must be great. I mean, how much or how often did you go to the book to kind of get some inspiration or information?
I'm a theater actor, so I did some of that work. You know, if I was working on a play, I would go through and pull out some of those biographical details and things people say, and I did that with the book as an exercise. Also, because I hadn't made a movie, I didn't know what the preparation should be, so I just kind of threw everything at it to see what stuck, and it worked well.
It worked, yeah. For me, obviously I read the book, but like having Gillian there was like the living sort of version of it. So you could go, does this matter? What's the point of this? Why am I doing? Oftentimes, you know, she got the chance to do some sort of, I don't want to say revisions, but sort of like, books are different than movies. They work differently, the stories are told differently, you know, you seeing people rather than using your imagination. So she had some very good insight into like how something might come off versus how she had to write it in the book. So it was very helpful to talk to her, and obviously David is extremely helpful.
And, you know, Nick is a character who's under a lot of media scrutiny in the film, and I think being, you know, for you, being a celebrity, you must be used to that. It's a different type of scrutiny, of course. But are you able to bring some of that to the role, use that as a...
Well, I mean, the guys are very different from me, but I have been through and I'm used to this sort of kind of media attention that comes with celebrity these days. This is a sort of offshoot of that, which is notoriety as fame, the kind of cable news obsession with tragedy, you know, the way we kind of tend to, like, I'm not sure why, you know, and I myself have gotten caught up in staring at the Casey Anthony case and wondering what's going to happen, you know, and there's Scott Peterson, and there's even, you know, legitimate scandals like what's the town, you know, Ferguson, you know, where you're still sort of transfixed. I really can't tell you why it is culturally that we do that, but we definitely do it. And some people, not all, but some people are sort of the leeches on that, and they just are sanctimonious, and they whip up anger, and they stoke the fires. And I think that's what's irresponsible, and that's what's hypocritical, and that's kind of what David went after, which is really a different thing than the celebrity fixation. It's a different movie. It'd be a very interesting movie.
So I have to ask you, is this just sort of a surreal experience? I mean, seeing the movie come together. I mean, you're sitting next to Rosamund Pike, who plays Amy Dunne, your character. I mean, how strange is it?
Yeah, it's like someone has taken my brain and like kind of dug around and put it on the screen. I mean, it's so many elements are so close to what I've pictured. You know, from the town that David created to the wonderful characters that they become. So it's very, I have little brain snaps every now and then. Watching it last night, seeing it on the big screen with an audience for the first time, I would kind of lull and get into the mood as an actual moviegoer, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, "Wow, that's for my head."
I remember reading it and thinking, you know, it's an amazing book, but I don't know how they will make it into a movie. But he actually completely nailed it, and you, of course, too, at your screenplay. Rosamund, Amy is a complex character, to say the least. How long did it take you to kind of wrap your head around her?
Well, I still watch it and think, God, there's so many things that I didn't wrap my head around. I mean, you know, it's never ending. you know, it's like you were saying, Gillian said, she wasn't ready to give up Nick and Amy and when she finished the novel, and so she got to have another go with the screenplay. And I mean, you got to keep the brain. You got to find out who the brain is, what the core brain is in the character, what she's thinking, and where she's come from, who she's been as a kid, and what kid has made that adult. And then you're placed to, go wherever the story goes, where she's, what her agenda is at each turn.
I'm curious if you spoke to Gillian much about the character, and if you guys kind of got together to find out what makes Amy tick.
Yeah, Gillian was in the rehearsals the whole time, and probably, I'm sure a writer's brain, I don't know, but I'm sure you're hearing, the words in our mouths and adapting slightly for who we were.
Volume control and
that sort of thing. But, yes, it was... I mean, it was great. The rehearsal process was really fun, actually, and really, really
it's very
useful.
decadent to all be in the room for a month almost, and to get to hear those lines and discuss, things that weren't in the screenplay, but that informed your performance, I think,
It was, and then I was always trying to sort of, I suppose, read Gillian, but she can be quite opaque when she wants to be. I was trying to sort of see whether, because you feel someone's created a character as brilliant as this. You really want to do it justice. It is a massive pressure. And then sometimes I'd get a clue, like she'd send me a book that she'd just sort of say, I was reading this while I was writing. I was like, right, I'll buy that and read that. And you're like, okay, right. So it's always sort of much more obtuse, really, than dead specific. So it gives you. She kept injecting me with sort of feelings and moods more than.
Right. Yeah, I want to be really respectful of letting her find her Amy. It wasn't my. She needed to find that place, so I didn't want to. Be fiddling, in her brain too much. Like this is this. But instead, just sort of like you said, just general, moods, songs that inspired that kind of thing.
And how closely did you work with David? I mean, obviously, he's going to do to your story what he feels is best for the film.
Yeah, no, we worked very closely together. When he came on the film, there was already first draft, and then there were more drafts when he came on. And we, the thing about him was, he taught me that no scene can do just one thing. It has to do 8 things. And I mean, he was very good at pushing me. This scene is clever dialogue, but it also has to tell you something about the characters. It has to tell you a sense of place. It has to move the plot forward. It has to, and
That's really
he really taught me to really push that, especially in a film that is trying to cover so much ground as Gone Girl is. You're back and forth in time. You're trying to establish this relationship. You're setting a sense of a mystery. There's a lot to be done. So he was like, no lazy scenes.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations on the film. It's another fantastic collaboration between you and David. When you first see the film, does it come quickly to you what the score should be, or do you have to sit with it a while? Do you have to see it multiple times?
The process for this was, I'd read the book. I'd spoken with David that this is his next project, and before anything was filmed, I became familiar with the novel. Some preliminary discussions with David, and I eventually got a script. And then what we did this time is he had filmed, because this landed right in the middle of a touring cycle for me. So I started working on this in January, and I'd been on tour since last summer, so perfectly bad timing. So he had a chance to film some material, saw a very rough cut, enough to get an idea of the pacing and the kind of look of things. And then the key really is, and at that moment, to answer your question, it's not obvious. I'm not sure what role music's going to play or how big a space it's going to eat up. And the key then is really talking with David, because as you can imagine, I know he knows what he wants. Not specifically, but he knows, just like he's considered the lighting and every detail of the cabinetry in the corner that won't even be in the shot. He's thought about, and I know he has an idea of what space and role music's going to play. And then it's a matter of just kind of translating and extracting what clues that range from specific to very cryptic. And then what happens is Atticus and myself, my co-writer, will sit down and, without picture, we've done this on all 3 pictures with David now, think about that space, think about the environment of the movie, think about the themes of the film, think about what feelings that invokes in us, and kind of blindly compose music that feels like it might belong somewhere in there. Not for the scene and not for the opening credits and not for that, but just feels like it's a translation of what we've extracted from David in terms of texture, make some decisions about what instruments we're going to use, we think, which usually means not using stuff, and focusing on a certain path of writing. And then we'll run a batch of music by him that's anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour long of stuff. And judge the reaction. And if it's not overwhelming, then we throw it out and we start again. But we had good luck this time from the beginning. And then it becomes much more, now let's get picture and start to see what we can squeeze into what scenes and start shuffling things around. And also entrusting his guys just get their opinions and try things and really be a collaborative situation.
Now that it's been 3 movies with him, how has that collaboration between you and he evolved?
I feel slightly less intimidated than I did initially. But I really value David as an artist and a friend. And each film has been an education for me and taught me a tremendous amount, not only about filmmaking, but the role of music and what's possible. And it's been a nice complementary set of things to do in a different discipline that has similar, but in a lot of ways, very different roles of what music does. And I found it very inspiring. And again, I couldn't ask for a better collaborator and situation where when David's making a film, it's with the absolute highest level of integrity to make the best piece of art he can make. It's not about the many compromises one faces with commerce and art argument. He's out to make the best, and he's already muscled people out of the way, so you have your space to do your thing and not be interfered with. And that seems to be, as I talk to some friends, a pretty rare and valuable scenario that I'm aware of. So.
Does it ever happen where you're stuck on maybe a particular scene, you can't find the right mood for it, and if so, how do you get yourself out of that?
It does happen from time to time, and again, that's as long as we're in dialogue with David and Kirk and Ren, Kirk, editor, and Ren, our sound designer, and we talk about, there's always an opinion there, and usually somebody digs us out of the hole, or vice versa, where they're stuck on a scene, and what about this? And whether not be that actual suggestion, but it leads to something where we all kind of realize, you know, it's been a lesson in the power of collaboration, which I haven't had a lot of experience in my own life.
First of all, congrats on the movie. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Neil, we haven't seen you in a role like this, I don't believe, ever. It must have been fun for you to kind of go a little dark and shady.
Yeah, it was super fun because I had just come off of a sitcom where I was trying to like chew on scenery and like give the editor interesting things to cut to just in case they wanted to. So I was doing a lot more sort of overt heavy lifting. So then to get to act with David Fincher, who is a truth cop, he will, you know, you're doing 30, 40 takes sometimes, not because it's wrong, then right. It's just so that it calms it down and distills it and makes it all simplified. And he would call me out on isms if I did a scene and raised an eyebrow at the end, you know, am I being mysterious or sexy? That's my idea. As an actor, I'm like, this is going to be good.
Very impressive.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to say the line. I'm going to give a little of that, so you're not sure. Cut. He'd come back and he'd say, Neil, the eyebrow. What's happening with you? Stop. You're doing the eyebrow thing
Is your
again.
forehead
Quit
okay?
it. Ah, you're right. You caught me. So
And
I
he
don't know,
doesn't miss a thing, right?
Yeah, he doesn't miss a thing. And
He does it to all of us too. It's not just Neil.
you're
We all have
playing
something.
on a level where everyone is working so to the best of their abilities, and it's challenging you to be working hard and excellent and yet still and true, and that's hard. We don't get that often as an actor.
Like he would remind us that a story tells itself, and you get that when your character is the most honest, and you have to sometimes strip everything away and just let it be really simple and happen, and you know the audience can come to you, you know.
And as you know, you're a director yourself. What is it like working with a director who's so precise?
Oh, it makes listen. Working with him made me want to be better. I felt like I went to film school for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
And just watching and his knowledge and how much he knows about it and how he sets up the shots and the light. This guy, I mean, he's immersed in it. It is in his very fiber, directing and filmmaking. He's brilliant, and it just makes me want to be better.
And Kim, I mean, playing a cop and so well, I wonder what kind of research did you have to do into that, or was it all there on the written page?
It's in the pages, you know, it really is. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, when, especially for the audition, and it all just started happening very quickly. So it was on the page. I just sort of stepped into it.
For the three of you, I mean, what's it like? Because obviously all of your scenes are sort of self-contained. What's it like seeing the movie and seeing the entire world that's been built?
I was so impressed with everyone else's performances and how real they were.
real,
like
yeah.
even your cop could
Ditto.
theoretically have been sort of the country bumpkin, small town cop that was, you know, hell-bent on it being one way, and it was so real and truthful. And your attorney could have been so one-sided and flashy or whatever it could have been, and instead it was grounded and real and like a real human being. And I think that, again, speaks to David Fincher's adept ability to cast people that he knows can do that, but also his way of directing them.
And the tone of the movie is so specific because it's hard not to make it too dark comedy, but also thriller. I mean, was it a challenge kind of writing that line between, like, you know, is this scene being played a little funny or is it strictly drama?
Well, that was in his hands, like finding that right satire, thriller, you know, dark comedy, and he knew how to do it. He just dialed us in. We were like paint. Each of us is a paint color, and he just picked the tone he needed that day or the shade, you know.